Okay, so recently there was an event in DC Comics where there's this big tournament created by like this like Heart of Darkness type thing, like kind of dark side power, and all these heroes had to compete to gain the power to hopefully save the universe. They were gonna get like universe like altering power, and of course Superman won, and he couldn't prevent the destruction of the universe, but he was able to use this power to basically remake the universe exactly as it was. Because his whole thing is like being like the linchpin of the cosmos, kind of. Well, not his whole
Kinda
thing,
like
but that is
X-Men in X-Men and Deadpool. He's the anchor beam.
Wolverine. Yeah, like how kind of like yes.
Yes, Wolverine and Deadpool.
The kind of like core spirit around which the like multiverse revolves. Kind of even bigger because in Wolverine, it's just like the one universe.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, so
but,
multiverse.
Yeah. So after he's done that, he's kind of disappeared for a while, and like people are looking for him, but no one's really sure where he is. Which as I'm saying this, that's kind of how Marvel's 2015 Secret Wars ended, where like Reed Richards what helped like remake like the whole multiverse actually,
Okay.
and then he disappeared for a while.
Wait,
anyway,
tangent.
so
Main
but they're
point.
still publishing all the Superman comics, and each of them has a different protagonist, and so there's one where it's like, well, I think Action Comics is the one where it's like flashing back to like young Clark Kent when he was just like early on the scene in Smallville, and he's having to deal with like time travel stuff. There's another one that's about his son John Kent, who's now trying out the identity of Tomorrow Man to kind of get out of the image of just being a younger Superman. But he's found like what appears to be a younger version of himself. And then the one we're discussing right now, which I sent you, is about Superboy Prime, who's this guy who comes from a reality where there aren't any superheroes, but there are the same comic books that the real world has. So he's just a massive fan of DC Comics and kind of wants to be like Superman, and his name's Clark Kent. I think in the 80s, this was like way before I started reading, before I was born. So he was, but I've done some research because I want to know things about things that don't matter most often. And basically he was siloed away after the Crisis on Infinite Earths alongside Lex Luthor or one of Lex Luthor's relatives, and also the like kind of original drafts of Superman who turned out to be from Earth 2 because he's like, like 1930s Superman, who's kind of like allowed to grow old and be all that and not be the current Superman. Anyway.
Hang on. When you say Earth 2, you mean TOO, or he's literally from Earth 2? Like
Earth 2, like a number. So basically, the whole like first instance of multiple Earths started with establishing that the original like comics from the 30s and 40s were in Earth 2, and the DC, the DC multiverse is its own thing that I don't even have the full expertise to speak on, at least at this particular moment. But anyway,
let your fans fill it in.
So they brought back. I mean, I can make another video about that, but I have to really do some research to get my head straight. Now, Marvel, I could do talking about the first Cosmos, the second Cosmos, the third Cosmos, the fourth Cosmos.
Okay.
Eighth Cosmos.
So this is Superboy Prime, and he's from a universe where there are no superheroes, but there are superhero comics, and he really wanted to be a superhero, and he is a Clark Kent.
His name's Clark Kent because his parents named him after the comic book character.
Right. So he is a Clark Kent. So I come back to the story to me where he punches reality.
Wait, hold on. I just need to test something. Sorry, go on.
Okay, so look, you're explaining to me the story where he punches reality to get that supervillain.
Okay, so I'm coming to that. So, Superboy Prime, the Clark Kent from the superhero list reality who got, taken into the DC multiverse, he was brought back in the mid-2000s as a kind of very different character. He became an indictment of like toxic fanboy culture, like the kinds of people who like, I mean, this is before the whole like YouTube grift scene really took over, but the types of people who like go on YouTube and make their money by complaining about like how everything's woke, or maybe not even that, because he wasn't a grifter. There's just a certain kind of like fan who's just like, I want everything to be the way it was when I first discovered things, and now things aren't like that anymore. So everything new is bad, and why can't things be the way they were when I was like 14 and first getting comics or whatever?
Like Star Wars.
Yeah, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. You know the type I'm talking about. So he was brought in to kind of be a caricature of that, as a character in a superhero universe who was like a fanboy of these things. And his complaint was that things were not as bright and shiny and optimistic as they were in the Silver Age of DC Comics, which is like what brought him to comics in the first place. Mm-hmm. Ironically, his reaction to that was to go on a killing spree, and he became a big villain. And so remember how I said he got like siloed off in this like pocket dimension with like Lex Luthor and Superman of Earth 2?
Okay.
So to get out of that, he became so powerful that he punched the walls of that pocket dimension, and because he basically got like superpowers, like kind of how like Superman in the early days was like he had no limits on his power, and like now he's just like, you know, he has superpowers, but like there are limitations, as there should be, because, you know, he's a character, not like a literal, like, you know, top tier god, right?
But like he's kind of a god.
Well, he's godlike in some ways. He's like a demigod. He's like Hercules, right? He's super powerful. He can do a lot. He's like one of the most powerful heroes. Like, but he still, like, he can die. He can, like, not pick up an entire planet and throw it, you know? He can't do that.
Okay, so the version I know is basically a god, and then there's a second version I know where he's basically Jesus, where it's a little bit weird that he's Jesus because he weren't his creators.
Well, he's Moses. No, he's Moses. He's a Moses allegory. Like, he was like cast off by his parents into the river of space, like Moses, a myth that the Jewish creators would be very well familiar with.
Yeah, but we've basically turned him into a Jesus.
Well, he's messianic, but Moses was also messianic. I mean, he's a savior.
I suppose it's not that bad that if he is a Jesus metaphor, it's not that bad because Jesus was Jewish too.
Okay, but Jesus is also, like, I don't want to get flamed by the fundamentalists for this, but like, he got crucified. Like, he did perish. Mm-hmm. You know, he has limitations, but you know, like Superman, he got resurrected.
Right. Okay. So sorry, I got us off track. So, where were we?
But yeah, anyways, you've seen the movies though. Superman is like, he can't like automatically win against everything. Like, you know, he was fighting that like giant robot thing, and like it was giving him trouble. Like, he got there, but like if you punch him hard enough, he's gonna feel it. Uh-huh. You know, and he can't just like pick up a planet and throw it at you. He has, you know, like, he's super powerful, but not infinitely powerful. Anyway, Superboy Prime is like had crazy power levels, and he punched the walls of this pocket dimension, and that had ripple effects over the entire multiverse, which for a while the meme was that like if you're ever noticing continuity error, it's because Superboy Prime punched reality, which I think is actually, for among other things, the canonical reason why Jason Todd came back from the grave.
Okay.
Which now everyone loves the Red Hood, and that's cool.
Well, I think they were stupid to kill off Jason. Oh no, wait.
It was a vote. It was a vote. You know, it was like again in the 80s they still had toxic fanboys, and toxic fanboys didn't like Jason Todd, so they voted for him to be unalived. You know, in that vote thing.
Well, nobody stays dead for long. But
well, he stayed dead. The joke was, no one stays dead in comics except Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, and Jason Todd. And of those three, or maybe it was Bucky. Maybe it was Bucky, not Gwen Stacy. Yeah. Uncle Ben, Bucky, and Jason Todd. And apart from Uncle Ben, all of them have come back. Around the same time, too. In very similar ways. Jason Todd and Bucky Barnes, like Winter Soldier and the Red Hood, like had very similar character arcs in the mid-2000s.
Okay, but I think I still don't understand the story.
Yes, I'm getting there.
All right, okay.
So, Superboy Prime, since then, has not been up to much. But after the events I just described, where Superman, the one, you know, the main one, disappeared, Superboy Prime kind of got brought back and got another chance at redemption, which I think is cool, because I feel like everyone who wants to change deserves a chance to do so. And this is why I sent you that comic. I thought it was really cool how he's done all these terrible things in his previous life, but now he really is trying and succeeding to be a hero worthy of the legacy of the main Superman.
So he was a normal human who ended up getting superpowers and used that to basically have a big temper tantrum because things weren't the way he wanted them to be. And then he was locked up in a prison, kind of like Zod.
No, so he was locked up in this. So after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think like going into a pocket dimension where everything was kind of like paradise, and he could be happy was kind of his reward. But it was like too small and like unreal, and he got dissatisfied. And he was like reading the comics happening in the main DC universe from his pocket dimension. I don't know. I didn't read any of this, but I think this is how it went. I think it was called Infinite Crisis. And I think he was reading the comics and he was like getting dissatisfied by what was going on and how everything was like dark and cynical, and the whole thing with Dr. Light and Sue Dibney that was happening around that time. And he was like, why can't comics be as bright and optimistic and heroic as they were in the Silver Age? Mm-hmm. And that and the isolation kind of drove him crazy. But yeah, now he's back and he's trying to be a good guy. But
so wait, he went crazy from isolation and came back as a good guy?
No, the crazy from isolation is what led to him punching reality.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and then he got defeated and he was dormant for a while.
Yes.
And I forget how he got brought back now.
What triggered that side story that you just told is I said that he was locked up kind of like Zod. Is drawing a Zod comparison wrong?
No, because he wasn't locked up initially. He was kind of rewarded by this kind of like heaven pocket dimension.
Right, that was too perfect.
And too small, and like nothing was happening. I didn't read it. I don't actually have a clear image of what was going on there.
And he decided to come back from heaven to what?
Well, that was when he punched reality. He broke out. That was when he went on his whole like killing spree.
Okay, so he was in a heaven. All right, so when you're explaining this, you're losing me. You said
I'm kind of lost too.
He went on a killing spree and was dormant for a while. But when you say dormant, that's when you start talking about this heavenly dimension that he was.
No, the heavenly dimension was before.
Preceded him going on a rampage.
Yes.
Okay, then he was
on a
dormant.
Rampage.
Okay, then he was dormant. When you talk about him being dormant, I say he was locked up like Zod. And every time I say locked up like Zod, you start talking about him being in a heavenly dimension.
I mean, I could look it up right now if I really have to.
Don't talk about that. Don't talk about the heavenly dimension. What does him being dormant mean?
I don't remember. I don't know.
But I'm not supposed to compare it to Zod being locked up.
I forget. It's possible. I honestly can't remember right now.
Okay, so how did he break out, and what sent him on a quest for revenge? Redemption. The opposite thing from revenge.
The fact that Superman was gone, and he felt like he was well placed to fill his shoes, and Ma and Pa Kent and Lois Lane were helping him find his place in the world.
Okay, well...
But he wanted to do better. Like, he realized he'd messed up. He realized he wasn't living up... Okay, in the same way that, like, you'll see a lot of comic fans who were, like... You know, they look up to people like Spider-Man and Luke Skywalker and the X-Men, but then, like, they'll say and do and behave in all these ways that are not remotely anything like their heroes would approve of. Like, all the guys who, like, have posters of Goku on their walls and just do all these things. Like, Goku would not...
So happy.
Goku's not a perfect person, but Goku would never approve of bigotry. You know what I mean?
He's just
Pre-redemption Vegeta might. And listen, I'm going to be honest. Even, like, heroic Vegeta...
Probably would.
He said some... He's going to be the uncle at the dinner table at Thanksgiving who says some, like, casually insensitive remarks about certain ethnicities, but there's no hate there. He's just kind of closed-minded. And, you know, he's raised in a certain way and he hasn't fully gotten over that yet. But he's not, you know, if you asked him, hey, man, do you think everyone deserves equal rights? He'd be like, yeah.
Vegeta would?
I'm pretty sure.
Doesn't sound like Vegeta.
Well, I mean, if you asked him, he wouldn't, like, he wouldn't be an activist, but, like, you know, he's friends with Goku and Bulma.
Kind of.
And he's married to Bulma.
Yeah.
Bulma's done a huge amount to, like, teach him morality.
Okay, before we go on a Dragon Ball Z rant,
Okay, point is, Goku would not approve of bigotry.
what you're talking about is the disconnect between people who idolize heroes, but they don't act like heroes in real life.
Yeah, it's all these people like, hey, why are the X-Men woke? And it's like, bro, they started as a metaphor. Literally, Stan Lee has gone on record saying they started as a metaphor for the civil rights movement of the early 60s, and then they've gone on to become a representation of numerous different marginalized groups. For all Bryan Singer's faults, Have You Tried Not Being Mutant is one of the most, I don't know, awesome on-the-nose lines in all of movies. I love that.
But I'm still, so...
But then, a lot of these X-Men fans are also, saying the most horrifically bigoted stuff online.
So saying that he's connected with Ma and Pa Kent, so he's learning better, that makes sense, but I still don't understand what inspired him to want to do something different.
He realized that he'd messed up. Because he wasn't like a genocidal villain by nature. He was just someone who'd, experienced so much craziness. He went from basically the real world to the Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he'd seen his heroes fight against an impossibly powerful being that the destruction of which claimed so many lives, and he was sent off to a pocket dimension, and that combination of trauma and isolation, drove him crazy. But people can heal, and after his vast mistakes, he realized he messed up. He wanted to be better, because he was still the biggest Superman fanboy of all time.
Well,
and he wanted to be worthy,
Yeah.
And people can change. All these people I'm talking to, Goku, when I'm saying Goku would not approve of your bigotry, he would definitely approve of your redemption,
Well,
if you say, hey man, I'm sorry Goku, I messed up, he'd be the first guy to lend you a hand and be like, take my hand, man,
yes.
Get up, I'll train you to be better.
Big hand. Okay, so what I did like about the comic is they got two things right, I feel, two very, very big things when it comes to actually trying to, if you think about the real world equivalent of, I messed up, now how do I make it better? Because most of the time people just go, oops, sorry, and they don't understand why people are still angry.
It's a start. You gotta start somewhere.
You were just talking about how a lot of people idolize heroes, but they don't live up to those ideals. It's because there's this idea in therapy where talking can actually take the place of action, and sometimes that's a really bad thing. In therapy, it's a really good thing, but in life, talking, performing in one small context can actually take the place of doing the thing.
Well, yeah, but a lot of these fans don't even talk in ways that live up to their heroes.
So sometimes people say sorry as a replacement for actions, rather than the start of an action. And it's supposed to be the start. But what I think the comic got right is that Superboy understood the importance of trying to improve. It's not even really about saying the right thing, doing the right thing. It's about trying and messing up and trying again and messing up again and trying again and messing up again. And tied to that, if this is somebody who understands basically that he's in a comic, then he could basically just decide that it's not worth the effort and create a world where everybody sees him as a hero to begin with. And I feel like in this day and age, when you can basically just pick up and move to a new echo chamber, the effort that it takes to try and have to deal with people's ire and dislike, because sometimes that's what it takes to rebuild trust. You have to endure the fact that people are angry at you until they feel safe again. It takes a lot of work, but the fact that he was willing to be uncomfortable rather than to take an easier path, I think those are two things that the story really got right.
Yeah, and there are people in the Justice League, there are other heroes who are still wary of him. And there are people on his side, and there are people saying, why are we trusting this guy? He, hurt, or worse, many of our friends. They got better, years later, but, this dude is seriously powerful and was, the biggest danger for a time. And people are like, yeah, but he's really, he's doing the right thing now. and yeah, it's hard. Like some people like don't just like bounce back from being hurt that badly.
Well, and you kind of have to, and that's the difference between changing for other people and changing for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Would you continue to do it whether other people recognize the change in you or not?
And
doing it for its own sake has to be enough.
Yes, and for him it is, and he's doing his best, and he doesn't like that sometimes people's preconceptions are getting in the way, but he understands it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this whole sequence where Manchester Black is back, and Manchester Black was created as a sort of pastiche of like the dark, cynical tone that a lot of comic books had taken in the 90s and 2000s. And, you know, that's, I think, at least partially why he's brought back to serve as the antagonist for Superboy Prime right now. Because he is everything Superboy Prime fought against, but he's also trying to make Superboy Prime like back to his edgy self instead of being the more optimistic person he's trying to be. But I do think that like it is great that like if you really try and you do what you need to atone and contribute to the positive side of the balance of energies in the world, like who you are now can matter enough to eclipse the versions of yourself in the past you want to move beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's beautiful because, I mean, I definitely have versions of myself in the past that I want to move beyond. And I'm incredibly glad that people have mostly let me, you know? I mean, occasionally once in a while, like my mother or brother will get frustrated with me and reference something I did when I was like 14. But generally, like, people, including them most of the time, are happy to like see me for the person I'm now, and that honestly just like kind of makes it easier to keep going forward.
You can build a new history.
Yes, and that is also something I like about comic books. Part of the reason I think that they're the most like relatable narrative format for me is that like a character's history, like in DC it's more complicated because they keep rebooting the universe, but like the Marvel universe, which is like my main jam, like broad strokes at least, everything that's ever written, like unless stated otherwise, like happened, you know? Like the same like X-Men, like, you know, like Cyclops and Jean Grey and Iceman, like the same people, they're the same people that were first published in like 1962,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like obviously like sliding timescale, like they're not like 70 years old, but they're the same people. You can say everything that like happened in every issue more or less happened, but the truth is, like the characters, like history, who they are now, like it's informed by a discrete, selected chain of events. Like when someone like writes a character, they're not like writing everything that ever happened to them. They're writing what this character is now and maybe some references to some salient points in their history. And I think that's kind of how I think it's kind of this phase, like how we can write our own histories. I'm not saying like pretend all the bad things we ever didn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have to constantly reference them, you know? You can like focus on the good things you've done and continue to do and build from there.
It's funny how if you go through therapy, a similar process happens where I'll say for myself, because I had therapy today, like
Gentle retcons, soft retcons.
but
That's the way to do
like,
it.
all of my memories are the same,
Yeah.
but how I see them is different.
Yes.
And
Drawn by different artists.
it makes them much easier to carry. And the more time I spent in therapy, the more I kind of called up things that I had forgotten because they didn't support the story of who I decided I was. Like, there was a lot of good things that I had completely ignored because I felt like they were less true than the bad things that people said about me. So if you look at it like comic books, every time there's like a new era of a comic, the writer gets to decide which issues are the most important.
Yes.
And they're all true and they're all part of the history, but suddenly they take on a new light and a new level of importance to serve whatever the great what's the word I'm looking for, but like the new greatest adventure.
Yeah. I love everything about what you just said and everything about you.
Yes,
And-
you always say that. But I wanted to ask you something before
Yeah,
you
but
go
seriously
off on a
true.
tangent of how awesome I am.
I was actually going to go off on tangent on how, like, if I was going to get an
Okay.
artist to draw what's going on now, I feel like Mark Bagley. That guy, I love that guy's style.
Okay.
Mark Bagley, draw us.
But you were talking
I
about...
love you, Mark Bagley.
You were talking about Superboy, I think, and people who were trying to get him to return to...
Manchester Black, yes.
Yeah, his...
The avatar of
his old-
cynicism in the DC universe.
Yeah. That reminds me of, like, in sobriety and in even just, like, recovery from bad systems, like bad friend groups, bad
Yes.
family groups. People really do try to sabotage your recovery.
Sabotage.
Maybe not knowingly, but they try to help you with the coping mechanisms
Mhm.
they still have, and you might have outgrown them. And if you were to go back to that, you would lose so much. It's not just going back to. It doesn't just represent like using one time. It could mean undoing all of your hard work, right? So you have people who you really need to find a new place for them, or maybe there isn't a place for them anymore, at least not until you're solid in your recovery. I haven't necessarily dealt with substance issues, but I have had experiences in therapy where I didn't build a new support system, so I went right back to the people who hurt me, who I went to therapy to try and escape. And when I was in therapy, it was great. I felt solid, and the moment I walked away, I had no other structure to hold me up. So it's like how Superboy has this new structure of people to hold him up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do relate to that because like that's like therapy, like some therapies I've been in have made it sound so easy. Like, yeah, you get back out there.
It always sounds
And it's
so easy,
everything's
and
fine, and like you have all you need, you're good, you're set, you don't need to worry about these things that were bothering you before, and then they thrust you out in the world, and you're like 16, and it's like, no, I'm back in the world now, I still have all the same problems, like the things that were bothering me before are bothering me again now. I only felt a little better because like I was in like a cloistered environment where none of that was touching me.
Well,
How do you expect it to be all right? This is hard.
anyone will tell you that therapy doesn't really happen necessarily in the 1 hour a week that you do therapy. Like, yes, you have your therapy then, but the real therapy takes
it's
place in
more
the
than
other, like,
1 hour a week.
7 days and 23 hours of the week. So you really need people who are going to help you reinforce the strategies that you learn.
Yeah.
And that's where Martha Kent and
Yeah, Pa Kent and Lois Lane, man. Lois Lane
Lois
got
Lane.
John set up in the city, and is
and the
it's beautiful.
superheroes who are taking the risk of trusting the new version and investing in the new version, and then superheroes who maybe don't trust him yet but might be willing to give him a chance in the future.
And I do get heat for this sometimes, but I do think that if someone wants to take an opportunity to be better, like I want to give them that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do got to be a bit better about figuring out when they actually mean it, because people can lie to me and I won't know,
Well,
at least until it's too late. But I prefer to be too trusting than not trusting enough.
okay, but you watch Healthy Gamer, right?
Occasionally.
So he has this phrase that I really like, and it's like step 1, do nothing. Step 2, wait for new data. So somebody promises change, and they might really mean it, but if they don't take the next steps, then even if they mean it, even if they want to do better, they don't have anything to replace it with, and until they put in the effort to do that, it's not going to happen. There's no amount of force of will that is going to like cause you to change who you are. And then
Not even like Green Lantern size force of will.
where you punch somebody in the face.
You'd be like Hal Jordan, and you still do not have enough will to change
but
someone if they don't want to
and
change.
then even that
Hal Jordan would also
you
not
do
be a
go
good
to
therapist,
therapy
but
and you don't magically get
that's
better,
what I like about him.
or you do certain, maybe you don't go to therapy, but you do certain things to foster a change. That doesn't mean you get better right away.
Of course.
So maybe people do need to distance themselves from you, between now and when you build a more stable foundation, and then you can connect with them again when you feel confident that at least for a time you're not going to hurt them. Like for someone with substance issues to be around children, for example, they have to be sober. So even if that's just for 1 hour, they have to be sober. So if they can do the hour, then that's what they can do for that day. If they can do 30 minutes, that's what they can do for that day. But then they step away. They remove themselves from the situation. So you don't have to.
It reminds me of a babysitter I had once.
What do you mean?
Oh, never mind. That's a story. Okay, I should end it now, I guess.
Okay.
I feel like have I explained that issue of comics to your satisfaction?
You have.
I will say it's what issue was it? Do you remember the number?
No. Do you want me to look it up?
I don't know. Like the issue of wait, which even comic was it?
I don't know.
Was it Superman or was it?
Hang on.
Super Boy?
You sent me a lot of stuff.
Okay. One second.
Here's a bunch of your...
Anyway, it's a really cool issue
your
where,
dudes.
like, yeah, all the stuff about redemption and, like, who you are and what you can be. But also there's, like, they do this whole, like, medium blending thing where he goes to, like, different styles of comic throughout. And it's like, a really impressive issue of comics.
You sent me a meme related to zebras that I didn't even read. I missed that one. Okay,
Oh.
Here it is. Okay, it is...
Superman issue 39. Okay. Superman issue 39.
Now it doesn't open, so
Okay.
I'm glad you saw it.
Superman issue 39. Maybe one of the best comics of the year.
What's
For
the
me.
zebra thing? For its lack